The story of 1970s groupies is far more complex than most people realize. Join us as we uncover the controversial reality behind the glitter and glamour of rock's most devoted followers. The dark reality of teenage groupies. While the life of a groupie might seem like a romantic fairy tale of backstage passes and rock star romances, there was an undeniable dark side that we can't ignore. Perhaps the most troubling aspect was the complete disregard for age boundaries, leading to the emergence of what became known as baby groupies. Take Lori Maddox's story, for instance. She was barely in junior high when she entered this world through her friend Sable Starr, who was already a prominent figure in the groupie scene. By 14, Maddox found herself immersed in a world of adult situations and encounters with famous musicians. Her accounts include interactions with David Bowie when she was not yet 15, and later, Jimmy Page. Complex perspectives on consent. What makes this topic particularly challenging to discuss is the conflicting perspectives from the groupies themselves. Many, like Maddox and Pamela Des Barres, look back on their experiences without regret. Maddox has repeatedly defended her early experiences, describing them as beautiful despite her young age. Des Barres even considers herself a feminist pioneer, proudly recalling how she would take birth control pills publicly on the Sunset Strip. However, modern experts like Dr. Rosemary Lucy Hill from the University of Leeds raise valid concerns about the power dynamics at play. She emphasizes that consent becomes complicated when there's such a significant imbalance of power, status, and age. The reality is that both perspectives can coexist: the genuine feelings of the groupies and the problematic nature of these relationships. The rock star's perspective. The musicians' attitudes toward groupies often ranged from dismissive to exploitative. Jimmy Page, who had a relationship with the teenage Maddox, was placed on a pedestal by her. Yet many rock stars viewed groupies as disposable entertainment. As one famous musician notably compared it to being at a buffet where everything is laid out. Even relatively tame acts like the Bay City Rollers later reflected on their groupie experiences with a mixture of nostalgia and regret. Les McCune admitted these relationships were ultimately shallow compared to meaningful long-term partnerships. This sentiment echoes throughout many musicians' later reflections on the era. The story of 1970s groupies remains a complex chapter in rock history, where personal agency, exploitation, and the cultural context of the time collide in ways that still spark debate today. While some groupies maintain their positive memories, we can't ignore the problematic aspects that defined this era of rock and roll. Behind the glamour, the dangerous reality. Legendary music journalist Legs McCain's punk oral history reveals a darker side to the scene. While the music was incredible, musicians were often surrounded by opportunistic hangers-on seeking fame by association. Safety became a serious concern for many groupies, leading them to adopt a buddy system for protection. Despite these precautions, tragic incidents still occurred. Pamela Welch and her friend Tyler experienced a horrifying ordeal when they were kidnapped, mistaken for sex workers, drugged, and sexually assaulted. The story of Bebe Buell exemplifies the complex relationships between groupies and musicians. As the mother of Steven Tyler's daughter Liv, her memoir Rebel Heart paints a haunting picture of life with the Aerosmith frontman. She found herself caught between Tyler and Todd Rundgren, watching helplessly as Tyler's drug use spiraled out of control. One particularly chilling incident saw him experience a severe seizure, only to return to cocaine use the very next day. Her desperate plea to Rundgren, "Help me get out of here," reveals the often overlooked emotional toll of these relationships. Art meets rock, the creative groupies. Some of the era's most fascinating groupies were artists themselves, none more famous than Cynthia Plastercaster Albritton. What began as a simple art class assignment evolved into a decades-long artistic journey, creating plaster casts of rock stars' intimate anatomy. This unique approach earned her Frank Zappa's patronage and allowed her to interact with musicians in an entirely different way. While she initially collaborated with other groupies, she later worked with the musicians' partners, gaining unique insights into the scene's dynamics. However, even artistic endeavors couldn't shield groupies from the darker aspects of rock culture. Al Britton's encounter with Led Zeppelin revealed their condescending attitudes and violent tendencies, contrasting sharply with the humility she'd experienced from other bands. This duality between public image and private behavior became a common theme in groupie experiences. The evolution of groupie culture. Gail Zappa, who transitioned from groupie to rock star wife, offered valuable insights into what she termed the groupie state of mind. In her interview with Pamela Des Barres, she described various levels of groupie culture, from professional scene makers to desperate hangers-on who would associate with anyone connected to the bands. For Zappa, the appeal lay in finding understanding and breaking free from societal constraints. Pamela Des Barres' own experiences revealed that these relationships often transcended physical attraction. Her memorable encounter with Mick Jagger after the infamous Altamont concert showed a vulnerable side to these seemingly untouchable stars. Rather than a romantic encounter, Jagger sought someone to confide in about his doubts and fears regarding his musical career. These moments of genuine connection remind us that beneath the surface of groupie culture lay complex human relationships filled with both light and shadow. The price of fame, personal struggles, and loss. One of the most haunting stories comes from Keith Moon's relationship with his groupie-turned-partner. After a tragic accident where Moon killed his driver while escaping from angry pubgoers, she witnessed his descent into guilt-ridden despair. "I don't deserve to live, I'm a murderer," he would scream in the middle of the night, requiring comfort and medication to find sleep. The glamorous facade of groupie life often masks profound loss and heartbreak. Many face the devastating reality of losing friends and lovers to the lifestyle's darker side. From Beverly's heroin overdose to the untimely deaths of beloved figures like Jimi Hendrix, Keith Moon, Mama Cass, and Graham Parsons, the toll was immense. The constant worry about others' well-being led many groupies to neglect their own health, eventually reaching the heartbreaking realization that they couldn't save everyone. Domestic life behind the stage. Not all groupie experiences were marked by tragedy. Some found themselves integrated into the surprisingly ordinary domestic lives of rock stars. Pamela Des Barres' memoir reveals her fascination with discovering that even legendary figures like Frank Zappa maintained normal family routines. Her role as nanny to the Zappa children in Laurel Canyon offered a unique perspective on rock star family life, showing a side rarely seen by the public. Marana Welch's accounts highlight the practical support groupies provided to struggling musicians. Her massive stir-fry recipes could feed entire bands and their crews for just $5, offering crucial support during their early career stages. "We were helping these guys stay alive while they created their music," she reflected, challenging the stereotype of groupies as mere hangers-on. Fashion, art, and cultural impact. Groupie culture significantly influenced 1970s fashion and artistic expression. These women weren't just followers, they were style innovators who shaped the era's aesthetic. Through creative thrift store shopping and custom-made outfits, they developed unique looks that often influenced the musicians themselves. Pamela Des Barres spent hours perfecting her appearance, viewing fashion as a form of self-expression and artistic statement. Perhaps no one exemplified this influence better than Anita Pallenberg, who revolutionized the Rolling Stones image as they entered the 1970s. Keith Richards later acknowledged her impact, admitting in his memoir that his iconic style came from wearing his old ladies' clothes. The legacy of 1970s groupie culture remains controversial, particularly regarding its portrayal in popular media. Pamela Des Barres criticized Cameron Crowe's Almost Famous for its male-centric perspective, arguing it missed the feminist undertones of the groupie movement. "We were about female empowerment and the female agenda," she insisted, highlighting the complexity of a culture that continues to spark debate about agency, exploitation, and artistic influence in rock history. Challenging Hollywood's portrayal. The portrayal of groupies in popular media has often missed the mark, according to those who lived it. Pamela Desbars particularly takes issue with Cameron Crowe's Almost Famous and its depiction of Penny Lane's character. She argues that no genuine groupie would have attempted suicide over a man. It was always about the music, the scene, and the culture they were creating. Desbars specifically criticizes the film's sanitized bus scenes, noting, "I was a groupie before there were bus trips. I was on jets." The reality was far more extravagant and raw than Hollywood dared to show. The legendary Starship. The true groupie experience often involved the infamous Boeing 720B, nicknamed the Starship. First chartered by Led Zeppelin in 1973, this flying palace of excess became legendary in rock history. The aircraft's bar frequently displayed band names written in cocaine lines, while a waterbed-equipped bedroom saw countless memorable nights. Deep Purple's manager, Bruce Payne, recalls the plane's reputation spreading so far that fathers 2 states over were calling the cops. Drummer Ian Pace proudly remembers the Starship as the ultimate venue for joining the Mile High Club. The plane's brief but intense 4-year career, ending with Peter Frampton's final charter, embodied the era's excesses. The business behind the scene. Dr. Paula Harper, a musicology expert from the University of Washington in St. Louis, highlights the often overlooked professional aspects of groupie culture. These women weren't just fans, they were skilled networkers who knew exactly where to be and who to connect with. They effectively served as unofficial PR representatives for bands, though their contributions went uncompensated simply because they were women. Take Gail Zappa's pre-marriage endeavors. She and her friends successfully broke The Who's My Generation into radio play by personally delivering it to various stations. As Harper notes, if men had done this work, they would have been paid professionals. The complex reality of relationships. Pamela Desbars champions sexual freedom while acknowledging its complexities. "If that's what you want to do it. You're not hurting anyone," she states about those seeking casual encounters. However, the reality wasn't always so simple. Gail Zappa, after becoming Frank Zappa's wife, admitted to struggling with her husband's continued involvement in the groupie scene, revealing the emotional toll these lifestyle choices could take on established relationships. This duality between sexual liberation and personal consequences, between professional contribution and social stigma, defines the true complexity of groupie culture. It wasn't just about the music or the sex. It was about carving out a space in a male-dominated industry and dealing with the personal costs that came with it. Resilience and recovery, the aftermath. The transition from the hedonistic lifestyle wasn't easy for many groupies. Those who survived emerged with powerful stories of resilience and self-discovery. Marana Welch, reflecting on the era of free love and baby groupies, admits she'd return to those days in a heartbeat, but acknowledges how the scene transformed. "We went from expressing yourself to feeding the ego," she explains, pointing to 2 major catalysts: the AIDS crisis and cocaine's emergence as the drug of choice. The personal cost of rock and roll romance. Fran Wright's story with Pink Floyd keyboardist Rick Wright reveals the devastating personal toll these relationships could take. After suffering through 4 miscarriages, which she attributes to following him on tour, she discovered her husband had impregnated a groupie. The timing couldn't have been more cruel, coming immediately after her 4th loss. "If I wasn't there when he wanted me, then he would find another woman to put in his bed," she revealed to the Daily Mail, exposing the harsh reality behind the glamorous facade. Substance abuse and survival. The dark underbelly of groupie culture often involved dangerous encounters with drugs. Pamela Desbars' advice to her younger self is crystal clear. The early drugs were fine, pot, acid, mescaline, but when it turned to cocaine and pills, that's where things went wrong. "There are whole chunks of my life I can't remember because I was so high." Bebe Buell's harrowing experiences paint an even more frightening picture. She recalls nearly dying after another groupie who was dating Alice Cooper at the time gave her elephant tranquilizers. In desperation, she called Todd Rundgren for help. Another close call with heroin left such an indelible mark that she swore off the drug for life. Legacy and lessons. Today's survivors of the groupie era speak with a mixture of nostalgia and hard-earned wisdom. Many, like Welch, have embraced sobriety, stating, "I don't want to be out of it anymore. I want to be present for life." Their stories serve as both a fascinating glimpse into rock history and a cautionary tale about the price of excess. These women's experiences remind us that behind every backstage pass and velvet rope lay complex human stories of triumph and tragedy. Their resilience in facing and overcoming these challenges speaks to the strength of spirit that drew them to rock and roll in the first place. The story of 70s groupies remains a testament to an era of unprecedented freedom, devastating consequences, and ultimate survival. Their legacy lives on, not just in rock history, but in the lessons they learned and the wisdom they share.